New Thought Media Network is excited to present Divine Science Everywhere, Fridays at 2 p.m. Mountain Time and 4 p.m. Eastern. Come explore a modern experience of divine science. With Reverend Joy Fletcher, Reverend Jeff Radcliff, and Bishop Durrell Watkins. Join us as we open our eyes to divine science everywhere we look. Fridays on New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Divine Science Everywhere. I'm Reverend Joy Fletcher, and I'm so glad that you could join us today. Some of the ways I express ministry is as president of the Divine Science Ministers Association, and I'm a member of Divine Science Federation International, New Thought Alliance, and I'm also a death doula and end-of-life educator.
And I'm Reverend Jeff Radcliff, and not only am I honored to be co-host on Divine Science Everywhere with these two colleagues, I also join Reverend Michael Mangus on Friday evenings, most Friday evenings anyway, for Friday Fireside Chat on New Thought Media Network. Not tonight, though. Also, you will find me on Facebook, Giati Ministries, Giati Ministries, stands for God is All There Is.
And I'm Durrell Watkins, currently starring in the cast of Godspell. No, not really. I just wear some groovy tie-dye. I am the president of Divine Science Federation International, and I also have a parish, Sunshine Cathedral. I just realized I sit on 5 or 6 boards. And the other day in the airport, I was on the plane for like an 8-hour flight, and I'm just typing because I've got a lot of work to do. When we land in Miami, coming from Lisbon, this guy who had sat silently next to me the whole 8 hours says to me in customs, "Are you a writer?" And I realized I edit a newsletter, and I contribute to a magazine, and I have chapters in books, and I've written books, and I write sermons every week, and I write the teleprompter for another show that we do on another network. And so I just said yes. I'm not going to present credentials. I'm not going to give my CV. I'm just, yeah. He could have asked me anything. I think I would have said yes. But I guess I really am. So that's me, newly discovered writer, Durrell Watkins. And I've been on sabbatical. So remember me? But I'm back. And if I remember right, this is about the time that Reverend Joy leads us in meditation.
I'd be very happy to. And I also want to say maybe it's you acknowledge that about yourself. Yes. And that's a good lesson for all of us, that I bet there are many qualities that every single person has that they're not acknowledging. So let's change that right now in this moment. So let us become still together and allow our body to relax. Take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. And with each exhale, consciously release any tension, any sense of hurriedness that we brought with us. Instead, breathe in peace, inner peace, calm, serenity. Serenity and peace, inner peace, is so needed right now. Not only for ourselves, but so that we can also be that beacon, that presence of peace for one another. In divine science, we affirm that omnipresence, which expresses itself as peace, is one of the inherent qualities. And it is in all, through all, as all. This means that this omnipresence is within us and moves and operates through us as well as us. This presence is not disturbed by any apparent circumstance. It's whole, steady, and available. We are never separate from this omnipresence. Truly, we aren't. We may forget for a moment that we are living and moving and having our being in this omnipresence. And that all it takes, perhaps, is a cleansing breath and a conscious awareness to think about peace. Emmett Fox said, whenever there is anything disruptive in your life, think about the inherencies of God. Think of that first. And one of those qualities is peace. Instead of fretting and going to and fro, turn within, take a breath, and declare peace. Peace, be still. Peace, be still. In order for peace to be expressed, it begins with us, right here, right now. Let us make it a conscious effort to consider, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. We watch our words, our tones, our actions, and yet we stand firm and support one another, declaring that everyone deserves to be treated with justice and dignity, and declared as wholeness and love and peace and light. In spite of actions, peace shall prevail. Peace shall prevail. So this divine peace guides us, influences our decisions, influences our words. And as we are more deeply at peace, we are more apt to make wise choices, choose loving words, and compassion. Every single act of kindness, fairness, and courage restores harmony and peace. As we close with gratitude, grateful for the presence that sustains us all, for the wisdom that reveals unity, and for the courage to live in peace through our thoughts, words, and actions. To ourselves, softly say, peace begins with me. Peace moves through me. Peace expresses as me. And so it is.
So it is.
Well, we have some bios today, and there's sort of a two groupings, right? So, do you want to do Thurgood now? Do you want to do them later?
We can do it however you want.
Well, and was there someone else too? Did you have a couple?
No, I've just got the one.
Well, why don't you start out with that, and then I'll just tag mine on, and then we can move on.
All right. Well, as you know, this is February, and February is Black History Month. And one of the brightest luminaries for Black History Month, in my mind, is Thurgood Marshall. He was born in 1908. He passed away back in 1993. He was an American civil rights lawyer and a jurist who served as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States from 1967 until 1991. He was the Supreme Court's first African-American justice. Now, before his judicial service, he was an attorney who fought for civil rights. He headed up the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund. He was a prominent figure in the movement to end racial segregation in American public schools. And he won 29 out of 32 civil rights cases that he argued before the Supreme Court, which culminated in the landmark 1954 decision, Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, which rejected the separate but equal doctrine and held that segregation in public education was unconstitutional because it violated the right of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Now, this decision, Brown versus Board of Education, partially overruled the court's 1896 decision of Plessy versus Ferguson, which held that racial segregation laws were constitutional so long as the facilities for each race were equal, which became known as the doctrine of separate but equal. The court's unanimous decision in Brown and its related cases paved the way for integration and was a major victory for the civil rights movement. And it was a model for many future impact litigation cases. I didn't know what an impact litigation was, and so I looked it up. It's where you sue incrementally in order to change society. And in this case, the integration of society was one of the goals that they were going for. So in 1961, President John F. Kennedy appointed Thurgood Marshall to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. 4 years later, President Lyndon B. Johnson appointed him as the U.S. Solicitor General, and then he appointed him to the Supreme Court in 1967, and he was affirmed by a vote of 69 to 11. Thurgood Marshall was a very staunch liberal, and he frequently dissented as the court became increasingly conservative. He retired from the Supreme Court in 1991 due to health issues, and President George H.W. Bush, who Marshall just literally loathed, nominated Clarence Thomas, a far-right ideologue who served in the Reagan and Bush administration, to replace him. So we were going from a very staunch liberal to a very staunch conservative. But Thurgood Marshall, the very first African American Supreme Court justice, as who I chose for luminary for Black History Month.
Excellent. I think he died. Like he retired in 91 and then retired and then died in 92.
Yeah, he died in 93. He was like, it was like less than 2 years after he retired.
I was so angry because he said, "What?" When they asked, "Why are you retiring?" He said, "Because I'm old and falling apart."
Mhm.
And then he lived over a year more, and I'm like, "See, that's another year of protection we could have had." So I was not gracious about his retirement, but I was a big fan. Obviously, he is a hero in American history, and who replaced him is not him. But there's never you never, you know, there's some shoes you just can't fill, and there'll only ever be one Thurgood Marshall. Let's see some new thought, folks. H.B. Jeffrey, born in 1872, died in 1954. He is, I think, one of the unsung divine scientists, one of the several who just sort of don't get talked about enough. He actually studied with Melinda Kramer and also Emma Curtis Hopkins and also with Thomas Troward. So Troward, he was, so I mean, three of the greats. He sat at their feet and took notes. Melinda E. Kramer, Divine Science founder, Emma Curtis Hopkins, the teacher of teachers, and Thomas Troward, a big influence on Ernest Holmes, who was later a Divine Science minister who started the Science of Mind movement. So H.B. Jeffrey, all up in that, and you don't hear enough about him. He worked with Emma Curtis Hopkins on high mysticism, one of her famous writings. He actually helped her with that. And he taught courses based on her books. The various places he would teach, he taught Emma Curtis Hopkins stuff. And his own books, he had a few, include Spirit of Prayer, Fruit of the Spirit, and Coordination. Those are three different books, not a super long title. And then here's something a little quote that you can remember Jeffrey by, H.B. Jeffrey. He said, "God is the one good. Thus, goodwill is the will of God made manifest in us." God is the one good. Thus, goodwill is the will of God manifest in us. Another person that I like to mention, sometimes she's a bit controversial in New Thought, but I like her and I'm going to stand by her. Helen Schucman, born in 1909, died in 1981. She was a professor of clinical psychology at Columbia University in New York City for 18 years, retiring in 1976. Faculty meetings were increasingly acrimonious at Columbia in the psych department, and Helen and her friend and colleague Bill Thetford were beginning to dread them. They just hated going to these meetings. And Bill said to Helen, "There must be another way." And soon after, Helen started receiving what she called inner dictation, which she seemed to believe was coming from Jesus himself, sort of as a corrective to what people were saying about him and teaching in his name that had gone off the rails a bit. And she started writing this inner dictation, started writing it down. And the result is A Course in Miracles. The Course encourages people to love, forgive, believe in absolute goodness and lovingness of God, and to release fear. By following the Course's guidelines, students of the Course believe that inner peace and lasting joy are possible. The Course seems to blend therapeutic principles, Christian verbiage, and Eastern philosophy. It can be and is practiced by people of various faith traditions and none. One of A Course in Miracles' most famous quotes is, from the very early part of it, "Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God." Brother Lawrence is someone who was from way before the New Thought movement, and yet a lot of New Thought churches, centers, schools use him in their practitioner training. Brother Lawrence, born in 1614, died in 1691. At about the age of 40, this former soldier turned valet. He was a fighter and then a servant. His name was Nicholas Herman. He joined the Carmelite order in France and would then be known as Lawrence of the Resurrection, or Brother Lawrence. He was a simple barefoot monk He spent most of his monastic career working in the monastery kitchen, and in his final years repaired sandals, which was sort of ironic or funny that a barefoot monk would repair sandals as his ministry. He walked around barefoot, but repaired sandals so that others could walk in comfort. And that apparently was very in character for Brother Lawrence. And so this soldier turned servant, turned volunteer amateur cobbler, and working in the kitchen on top of all that. He was he spent most of his monastic career in the kitchen and making those sandals. He was known for his peaceful demeanor and happy nature. And he attributed this because he had developed a form of praying from the heart, of being in constant communion with the divine, which he called practicing the presence of God. This, he seemed to be innately aware of an omnipresence, and that he believed to be in constant communion with that presence. It sounds very Nona, very Melinda to me. That there is one power, one presence, we're part of it, and we can commune with it all the time. People would write to him or visit him for spiritual guidance, and after Lawrence died, Father Joseph de Beaufort gathered many of Lawrence's letters and published them as The Practice of the Presence of God, which is a text still appreciated by Protestants and Catholics and New Thoughters alike. This famous book by him, he didn't even write. It was just letters and chats that he was giving when other people wrote it down, and then after he died, someone put it together in a book, and I'm so glad they did. And finally, there's Immanuel Kant. He's sort of a famous philosopher. Everyone knows, if they don't know his work, they know his name. Born in 1724, died in 1804, born in Prussia, and he became a professor of logic and metaphysics. He separated the historical Jesus from the mystical Christ. There's the Jesus of history, and then there's this mythical or mystical Christ, or Christ nature, or Christ principle. Well, don't we know it in New Thought? So those are our only. Helen Schuckman is New Thought-ish, but H.B. Jeffrey, 100% divine science, and all of them using different languages, different vocabularies for the one truth that we all share. And speaking of share, let's share some information about the network. Take a little break, and we'll be right back with a fascinating discussion. This is Divine Science Everywhere on the New Thought something network.
Media
network.
Thought Media Network. I'm looking at it. I don't know, it just went blank. This is the New Thought. I'll never forget it. The New Thought Media Network.
We're back.
I love that last thing that popped was at New Thought Media Network. We say yes. We always say yes. I love that. There's it's Goddard, Neville Goddard, who as a treatment to say, "Isn't it wonderful?" Just whatever. Just isn't it wonderful? Either that this is a thing, or this is a possibility, or that I survived that mess. Isn't it wonderful? And so I love that. Always say yes. Always recognize that something is wonderful. Well, Reverend Joy has assigned us some quotes to share about important stuff. And we got them. So Joy, tell us what we're fixing to do.
What we're fixing to do, boy.
The Arkansas just flies out sometimes. It just flows out of me. I don't know.
Sounds like one of my Arkansas relatives. Well, there's a lot going on right now. A lot of things that could cause tension and upset, and there's some violent experiences, but also there's some wonderful things that are occurring. I am so moved by the Minnesota community coming together and singing, and choirs and walking down the streets singing in unity, and the lyrics say something about we're here for each other, we're going to make it through. And so in the midst of all the upheaval, I think it's really important to focus on the good things that are happening and think about how we also can contribute to the good, to the ripple effect, to the birthing of a new experience. I love this particular reading. It's called The Great Invocation. I found a little card that I inherited from my great grandmother. She had a little her handwriting was on there, which makes it extra special to me. And it's this: from the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of light within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Now, also, many religions believe in a world teacher, or a coming one, the anointed one, and it's also not necessarily this energy not known as Christ, but rather avatars and other experiences. So the website where this can be found is, I believe it's Lucius Trust. And they want to emphasize that this particular affirmation is for people of all faiths. It's not specific. And also,
did it come from a spiritualist or a theosophist? I forget.
Theosophy. And it was around the World War II times, and which shows you that often in the dark times of our lives, that light is available and inspiration. And I think it's really important for us to focus on that. And also, metaphysically, I've been taught that there really isn't evil. It's the opposite of using live or life in the reverse, misusing the universal laws. So we don't believe that some outside force is evil or creating chaos. Rather, it's universal consciousness that seems to present itself that way. What do you think?
What I was just, when you were talking about that, I was thinking about the Star Wars. I used to say the trilogy, but there's like 17,000 of them now, aren't there? But in the Star Wars myth about the Force, that it's one power and it's everywhere and everyone can access to it. The more you study it, the more you know about it, the better you can use it and commune with it. And it can be used to do amazing things or really terrible things. And so, like, so the battle between people, both using the Force in different ways. And so if there's not a person judging all of that, then where's the justice when people are doing bad things with it? Well, that's what karma is. Karma is habit energy. And so whatever you consistently do, you are creating a world for yourself. And so the person who kept using it in worse and worse ways I mean, there was very little of him left by the end. He was like almost all machine, because like his body was just at one point he was like in a volcano and it just ate away. And he just, his choices, not punished for his sins, but by them. And which is karma. You know, you plant tomato seeds, you're going to get tomatoes and a bunch of them. And that's what karma is. We don't need a judge, because we're going to reap what we have planted anyway. And so, yeah, there's one power, but it's still in your benefit to use it in loving, generous, life-giving ways.
Mm-hmm. 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 For sure.
Yeah, I think people tend to forget that we are one with one another, and so they tend to express their divinity in some negative ways toward other people. Kind of reminds me of what Mother Teresa said. She said, when we see God in each other, we're able to live in peace.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, is people seem to have gotten tunnel vision, you know, and they're seeing only themselves and people outside, without realizing that what they're looking at outside of themselves is actually within.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. And also, you know, the saying that if something is obtained through force, the only way you're going to keep it is through force.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing that out of fear. I consider it lower chakra energy, where you're trying to force a certain will or ideology. That's very, very, very challenging, and seems very unfair, and it is inhumane. And I'm not dismissing that when I say the next sentence, and it is not enduring. Right. I'm not dismissing that, you know, how there are moments that I feel very distressed over the inhumane acts.
It has sometimes taken 70 years. It has sometimes taken 1,000 years, but every empire falls.
Yes.
So everything that's built on domination, violence, theft, dishonesty, you know, because a lot of times empires take the resources. The reason they invaded a thing and made it part of them is for the resources, or but whether it's Great Britain, whether it's Napoleon, whether it's the Soviet Union, whether it's Rome, Egypt, Persia, every empire has fallen.
Yes.
And if you look around, see any countries that have imperial characteristics, it's not going to last forever. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to go far. Mm-hmm. But because, yeah, what you get from fighting, you have to fight to keep. And fighting is exhausting. And eventually you're going to use up all your resources, and you're going to wear out people that were your allies, and you're yourself going to get exhausted and frustrated. And you just can't maintain it forever.
And we're not living as the highest and best as we're intended to express that love, and eventually we'll learn it.
Yeah.
And again, I want to return to how inspiring it is for people that are living under a very, very challenging time and circumstances, that are coming together in like 20 and 10 below degrees, walking outside, you know, in boots and all the snow gear out there, singing the most glorious songs and chants, and changing the vibration through those voices and their intention in coming together.
Just showing up, letting the light shine.
Oh,
we've done it at Alligator Alcatraz. Yes. We did it recently because HIV funding is under threat in the Florida. Only Florida, but Texas is, you know, drooling and thinking about maybe following suit. But to balance the budget, that's one of the things they've proposed, is just to cut about 16,000 people, make it very difficult for them to get life-saving medications. Now, the good news is they won't be cut. They're cut off from some newer, safer, more effective medications. They'll still be able to get other medications, but they're also making it difficult or maybe even impossible to get the Affordable Care Act. So the insurance, the help you get for getting insurance is being cut. A lot of people depend on that. So it's going to affect 16,000 people. And some very well may die. And so nonprofits are scrambling together to try to help. What can we do? What can we do? But last week, or earlier this week, actually, it was Monday, a lot of us gathered together and we marched, and then we came to the Sunshine Cathedral and we prayed, and experts told us what they knew about what's happening and what we could do in response and how we could take care of ourselves and take care of each other. And it was, you almost regret that you have to do it, but then when you do it, the hope stirs and you feel the light and you feel the spirit moving, and there are Mussolinis in the world, but there are also Anne Franks in the world, who you just can't kill the love in her, that you can't kill the hope in her. You can't make her hate humanity. And we still have some Mussolinis, but we also still have some Anne Franks. And of course, the biggest optimist will say, and Mussolini can have a change of heart. Mussolini can get better. But for sure, when we get together and we let our light shine, that's empowering and it's healing. It's just when you think, I can't do this anymore, and then you get together with 30, 100, 6 of your compatriots, and you're like, oh yeah, I can do this another week. We can do this. We can love a little bit more. We can hope a little bit more. We can give a hand up to someone one more time.
Yes.
And that's how it goes.
Yes. Yes, Jeff?
I was thinking it seems that we've got wars and rumors of wars, which is right straight out of Scripture. We've got man's inhumanity to man. We're seeing it played out every day in some way, shape, or form, and it all comes down to, I think, fear, because if we can't have peace in our outer world unless we have it within. Yes. And when people are afraid, they're not at peace. They're afraid of the other. They're afraid of people of different ethnicities or colors or even genders. People freak out over stuff like that. Edward Harriman said that it's never safe to look into the future with eyes of fear. And I think that's what we're doing in a lot of ways. So when I look at what's going on in Minneapolis, I see things that try to unsettle me on the inside, but then I also see the marchers and the peaceful protesters and the singers, the choirs, and I realize that you're right, Joy. They are changing the vibration a little at a time. It's probably not happening as fast as most of us would like to see it. It is happening. Fanny B. James wrote that in the understanding of the one that is all power, there's perfect peace. The infinite is all-inclusive, hence all things rest within infinite presence, and this presence is peace. Peace, be still. And I think that we need to remember that the omnipresence is peace. The first law of the universe is order, and it's all in divine order when we realize that we are not separate from the omnipresence, what we call God, and that within God is that perfect peace. So I think that as we find our centers again, I think a lot of us, even in the New Thought community, let ourselves get knocked for a loop when all this stuff started going down. I'm seeing the pendulum shift back now. I think we're finally regaining our sense of self, our sense of center, and because of that, we can see that peace prevail on earth.
Yes, thank you. And I love the emphasis on unity, no separation. And I think the fear sneaks in when we think about us against them, or fear, or the idea that we'll miss out because someone else does this or that, and that's really nonsense. Our teachings emphasize that the universe is abundant, endless, constant.
There's no us and them. There's just is.
Pardon me?
There's no us and them. There's just is.
That's true. That's true. Yes. Yes. And so we all have a responsibility to do our own inner work and link our energy with others too. Here's a quote from the Edgar Cayce Reading Library. Each individual must stand upon their own inner developments to bring peace or harmony. So long as any is leaning on another, or they are leaning on another, there cannot be full or complete control of self. So that has many, it's a good jumping off point for many topics of discussion. I think one of them is first off, we have to be centered ourselves. Just like I'm thinking about as a chaplain or a death doula or a practitioner, minister, we need to be very aware of our energy before we step into the presence of someone that we supposedly are going to heal or support. What I say by healing is like through spiritual mind treatment and prayer, to come in and co-create that presence of peace. But so we can't go in there like a whirlwind because we were caught in traffic or whatever, or the weather's bad, but rather shake it off before we step into that door and be conscious of being at peace. So instead of relying on someone else or something to bring that inner peace, we must do the work on ourselves. Mm-hmm. Another point I want to bring about that is all of the people that are in leadership and the politicians are there by right of consciousness. Our collective consciousness helped place them in there. And if we think that we cast our vote and that's all we need to do and put all the responsibilities on their shoulders, we're not doing our part either. We're just basically trying to get a quick fix and not pay attention. So through all this, we have the opportunity to pay attention and do more than just go to the voting polls and elect someone that we think is going to fix it for us.
The fixer is the problem in a lot of places. Religion that wants a fixer, a savior, a messiah, a way shower, a prophet, that we're waiting for this one that's going to make it better. And that happens politically too. We want someone who has all the answers, and they're always going to, stand up and do a strong thing and keep us safe or whatever, or protect our privilege. That this idea that somebody's going to take care of us in this life or the next life, that's what gets in our way. That's what keeps us from becoming better versions of us. It's because we're giving our power away. Sometimes we give it away to a good person. Sometimes we give it to a person who isn't very mature or centered or properly focused. But once you give it away, you've given it away. There was I teach as an example in a prayer class. We do a lot of examples, and one of them is how going through the steps of treatment. God is, I am, it's all good, hot damn, peace out. That's the prayer. This woman who was diagnosed with something, and she went into to have it removed, and she said that was the prayer she went into surgery with. God is, I am, it's all good, hot damn, peace out. And she said that, like, it gave her peace. It also made her chuckle, and she went in and then came out with great results. And just that little attitude shift made her not be afraid. And being not afraid might have contributed to the great results thereafter. The same thing, another woman just very recently said she had surgery, not as dire, but her entire mobility and quality of life were at risk. And she asked me for a prayer, and my prayer very simply was, I see you well. And she's in PT now. She got to rehab, now she's in PT. And she said, I just keep remembering that my pastor said, I see you well. And it's coming true. So Yeah, but see, they did it. I didn't take any credit. I didn't say, "Oh, well, I'll take this. I'll take this to the upper chamber." Whatever it is. Here's how you can pray, and this is how I see you, and then they did it. They did it, and but if they'd been wanting me to do it, I might have let them down really, really bad. But they did it, and I think that's the thing. Vernon Shields, an old from back in the day divine scientist, very big in his day, though, said it is your destiny to overcome every challenge that life presents to you. He doesn't say there won't be challenges. He says it's your destiny to overcome every challenge that life presents to you. It is your destiny to master life and not be conformed to circumstances or conditions. He doesn't deny that circumstances and conditions can suck, but it is your destiny to master life and not be conformed to circumstances and conditions. You are always in a state of becoming. If you're not there yet, you're on your way to there. So don't judge too soon. We can master circumstances or become a servant to them. Master them or serve them. Jesus was a master teacher and taught that we are to become overcomers. That is our destiny, to master life by a change in our beliefs. See yourself as the person you wish to become. And this time when due process is being denied and people are targeted for their race or their gender expression or their sexual orientation, or whether their documentation is something we made up. In paradise, it's just people in harmony with nature and the animals and one another. It's just people. And I realize that there's some things we have to do on a practical level, but also we can do almost anything we need to do with kindness, compassion, and recognizing that of God and others. So that's the one thing. Some people say, "Oh, you shouldn't. If you're religious, you shouldn't be getting involved in politics, and if you're New Thought, you shouldn't be judging anybody at all." So don't even say that this is bad or that is dangerous or that's unfair, because we're above all that. I think those are cop-outs. Because yes, I could say when I say something that might be political, but silence is also political.
Yes.
Silence is complicity. Silence is a way of saying, "It's fine with me." And so you're going to be political. The choice is, in what way? Am I going to do something? I'm going to say something positive. I'm going to do something hopeful. Am I going to stand in the cold with my friends and hope that our combined light makes a difference in the world? That's sort of the difference. And because of New Thought, because I see everybody as part and parcel of God, I can't let any part of God be treated ungodly. And so, yes, these people that we're saying, "Oh, I don't understand your gender expression, so you can't play sports, or you can't serve in the military, or we can't talk about you in school, or whatever." You're doing that to God. Is that how you want to treat God? That doesn't seem right to me. So I do disagree that we should just shut up and trust the universe and it'll all play out. I think, as Butterworth used to say, and Holmes too, what God does for us, God must do through us. And so we got to say something, we got to do something, and then trust that what we can't do, then something takes over. My friend, a religious science minister, used to say to me, "I plant the tree, God grows the tree, God has the hard part, but you're the one that starts the process. You plant the tree." So and this thing about Vernon, and then I think I'm done. But that see yourself as the person you wish to become. And when I think of Mother Teresa, when I think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., when I think of Bayard Rustin, when I think of Absalom Jones, when I think of Harvey Milk, when I think of Bishop Barbara Harris, when I think of Melinda Kramer, when I think of these just great examples of humanity, when I think of Siddhartha, when I think of Socrates, when I think of these great examples of humans, and if I want to be like that, I've got to be able to see myself becoming that we can all be whatever we want to be. We all are part and parcel of God. And if I want to be like that, I have to see myself as that. And to see myself as that is going to lead to behaving like that. And so a lot of the early New Thought people were feminists. A lot of the early 20th century evangelicals were democratic socialist.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Christian socialism. So I deny that there's a difference between that being spiritual means you can't be an activist. In fact, in the Buddhist tradition, Thich Nhat Hanh actually sort of introduced this. They call it engaged spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sit on your mat and then get up off your mat and do a thing and then come back to your mat.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it's totally within principle to be to be involved in action, because especially if you like, we're doing this because we're all divine. Don't let divine be treated badly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. And I also want to say that we're called to take action, and also we're being called to, and it's true as a spiritual practitioner, when one of us or any of us feel that they need extra support, it's up to us to help uplift them so that they can remember the truth about themselves. And we know that as practitioners, like if we have something that happens in our immediate life and we feel honestly distressed and don't feel that we can remember the truth that we know, that we reach out to one another, to support one another, to pray with one another, or just to be in the presence for one another. That's really, really important. Myrtle Fillmore said, as you really understand God, you will learn to drop all thought and feeling of anything contrary to good.
It's funny that you bring up Myrtle Fillmore, because I was thinking of that song, Let There Be Peace on Earth and Let It Begin With Me. Myrtle Fillmore also said, the kingdom of heaven is within, and it is only through bringing its unfailing law of love to act upon every situation that we shall establish its peace in our surroundings. So there's that peace on earth. And the late Unity minister Marty Dow said, your thoughts don't simply affect your life, your thoughts resonate around the world, creating either more peace or more fear. Think responsibly. And of course, Master Teacher Jesus said, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. So
very nice. Well,
and Zig Ziglar said, remember Zig Ziglar? Zig Ziglar said, FEAR, fear, can stand for forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And it's our choice.
Or false evidence appearing real. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we're either going to have to take another hour or stop it altogether. So we're going to have to stop it altogether. Let's do one more break, and then, of course, Reverend Joy will dismiss us with some sort of blessing, I guess. But this is Divine Science Everywhere on New Thought Media Network.
Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk, Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. Center for Spiritual Living Denver. Unity of Garden Park. New Thought Philadelphia. The Sunshine Cathedral. Unity of Savannah. And the Ohm Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.
Wow, that was quick. Well, I would like to read just one more quote by Gandhi. He said, when I despair, I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love has always won. There may be tyrants and murderers, and for a time they may seem indivisible, but in the end, they will always fail. Think of it always. So, next week, our guest is Reverend Kurt Condra, and he's from Unity North Shore in the Chicago area. And then on February 20th, our guest is Reverend D.Min Duffy. So we're looking forward to that. He's very active in the New Thought movement and focuses especially on the ministry for men. So,
I love when we have guests, and I also love when we just talk about stuff, principal program. So, and we have it all here on Divine Science Everywhere. I love that.
Thank you. I do too. And please do come back and like and share with your friends and on your social media apps. See, you're not the only one, Durrell.
We made up words anyway. We can change them at will. We just made them all.
We can say it's metaphysical. We make up a word.
My friend Cindy Lippert would call that metaphysicals. Metaphysical when I couldn't think of the word.
Very good. All right. Well, laughter is good too. So we'll see you next week or sooner if you're watching us on YouTube. Remember that this is Divine Science Everywhere, and Divine Science is in all, through all, and as all on the New Thought Media Network. See you next time.